Okay, hello everyone, and good afternoon from Kuala Lumpur. My name is Pravind, and I will be the ERA-AP technical host for today's session. I would just like to run everyone through some virtual housekeeping rules. This session provides interpretation. Please go to the interpretation at the bottom of your screen to choose your language channel. Please don't forget to mute original audio to only hear the interpreter. So welcome to the Global South Women's Forum on Sustainable Development 2020. To conserve bandwidth and improve your network connection, please turn off your videos. And for the speakers, please turn on your videos only while speaking. Also, in order to prevent any unwanted interruptions, please mute your microphones, and it also helps to improve your internet connection. And also close any unnecessary programs if you're experiencing slow bandwidth. This is an interactive session, so please feel free to use the public chat box to engage with one another. For everyone's information, this session is live streamed and the recording will remain public on the ERA Asia Pacific YouTube channel. ERA Asia Pacific is committed to making GSWF an inclusive and safe digital environment and will not tolerate harassment of any kind, including but not limited to deliberate intimidation, sustained disruption of discussion, and sustained disruption of discussion. Participants are obliged to be respectful and to avoid replicating societal prejudices and inequalities. And participants who engage in disruptive behavior may be removed without prior notice. And with this, I pass on the floor to today's moderator, Naomi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Praveen. We're very happy to see people are joining us from different parts of the world, from Africa, Asia, Europe, US, and Latin America. We are very happy that you're joining us for this very important discussion today. The title of our discussion today is Securing Women's Land Rights through the Beijing+25 Action Coalition, a gateway toward a feminist economic transformation. We are going to have 5 speakers with us today who are going to share with us different experience from different parts of the world. These are feminist leader, grassroots leader who are going to share with us different experience they have from the places where they come from. My name is Naomi Shadrack. I'm a women's land rights advisor from Oxfam International. I lead advocacy work to secure women's land rights across the world through advocating for effective implementation of international and regional frameworks and instruments that adequately incorporate measures to strengthen and promote women's land rights. I have 10 years experience working on the land rights, particularly on women's land rights. We are very happy to have you today. Feel free to ask through the chat box to put your contribution. We are having a Spanish translation. We are having English translation. Also, we have Nepal sign language. So feel free to use each any media which is more convenient and you understand it better. Our topic today, as I said, is securing women's land rights through Beijing+25 Action Coalition, again as a gateway toward feminist economic transformation. Progress towards gender equality is under threat. This is what the world leaders warned us at the General Assembly as marking 25th anniversary of landmark Women Rights Conference. Beijing+25 Action Coalition are being formulated. Actions are put in place to deliver for women after 25 years of Beijing platform, where is recorded until now, no any country has registered to have gender equality. This is very scary. On top of that, the COVID-19 pandemic has threatened us. It has threatened us not only in terms of being a public health issue, but COVID-19 has also been threatening us in terms of limiting participation and consultation, particularly of women who are from the rural areas, indigenous and grassroots women. And this is happening in different nations and international process. For example, this year, CFW, which is a very important meeting for women, was cancelled because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Land and natural resource are key driver of inequality. This includes gender inequality. Land grabbing, land reform in urban and rural areas, and climate change impacts have both exacerbated women's land rights challenges and led to women being in the abject poverty. So this session will bring feminist leaders from different parts of the world who have worked on women's land rights, women land and natural resource for the past 25 years of Beijing Platform for Action. Based on their experience from the grassroots, they have solutions which are key towards solving problems and contributing to advancing women's land rights and women's rights in general. And we believe that these solutions, which they have gathered for the past 25 years, can inform the formulation of action coalition so that it can deliver for rights of women in the world. To start, I'm going to welcome the keynote speaker, who is Katie Macero. Katie Macero is an indigenous women leader from Peru. Katie has worked with Organization of Indigenous Women of Peru, ONAMIAP, as a president of the organization for the past years. She is now coordinating the Council of Indigenous Women and an independent consultant on different issues relating to Indigenous people. Katie, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Gracias, Naomi. Agradecer también al foro por la invitación. Acá son las 12 de la noche. Estamos haciendo lo posible por participar y hacer llegar nuestras preocupaciones y nuestras reflexiones, qué ha pasado con las mujeres indígenas, campesinas, originarias en nuestro país a lo largo de estos 25 años. Han pasado 25 años desde que la Cuarta Conferencia Mundial sobre la Mujer aprobó la Declaración y la Plataforma de Beijing, en la que los gobiernos se comprometieron a tomar medidas estratégicas con el objetivo de eliminar las barreras sistemáticas que impiden la participación igualitaria de las mujeres en todos los espacios y en especial a decidir sobre nuestros territorios. Nosotros, las mujeres indígenas, campesinas, originarias, sin el territorio se acaba nuestra vida, nuestra existencia como pueblos. Y nosotros, pues, es una larga lucha, ¿no?, a lo largo de los años para ir decidiendo, tomar decisiones dentro del territorio. También venimos de un proceso, de un contexto histórico de luchas y resistencias en donde siempre estuvo presente el despojo territorial de parte de los gobiernos de turno. En los años 90, justo en el marco de Beijing, nosotras veníamos recuperándonos de la violencia interna, el terrorismo que azotó grandemente fuertemente a las mujeres rurales, campesinas, originarias en especial. A esto le sumamos también las políticas de esterilizaciones forzadas, una política de Estado que se promovió también en un gobierno de los 90. Veníamos totalmente con la baja autoestima, desvalorizadas, pero sí, sin embargo, Beijing+25 No, Beijing, la conferencia, tiene un significado especial para nosotras, las mujeres indígenas, andinas y amazónicas del Perú, porque precisamente hace 25 años iniciamos un proceso de formación, de fortalecimiento de capacidades y articulación de las mujeres indígenas, tanto andinas y amazónicas en el Perú. Justamente hace 11 años nace ONAMIAP en ese contexto, ¿no? También agradecer a quienes nos abrieron el camino en Beijing, a las hermanas que participaron en ese entonces. Sin embargo, la lucha por los derechos de las mujeres siempre será un desafío. Muchas veces sentimos que es como nadar en contra de la corriente, porque puede estar escrito en los documentos, puede haber políticas de género, puede haber un montón hay un ministerio de la mujer en Perú, pero sin embargo, poner en la mente de los que toman decisiones, en la mente de las comunidades también hay mucho machismo, es muy difícil. Existen diversos acuerdos y espacios internacionales referidos a los derechos de las mujeres. El Perú tiene normas nacionales, hasta un ministerio de la mujer, pero ¿cuánto se ha avanzado en estos objetivos? Y es que para cerrar estas brechas de género hay que empezar por cerrar las brechas entre las normas y la realidad. Ambas brechas son sistemáticas, entonces hay que cambiar el sistema. Un sistema esencialmente discriminador, no solo de género, sino también de clase y de etnia. El gran problema es que aunque se hable de todas y se diga que nadie debe quedarse atrás, no se tome en cuenta a las mujeres en toda su diversidad, porque sí existe discriminación contra las mujeres en general. Hay mujeres que sufrimos doble y hasta triple discriminación, lo que nosotras lo llamamos la multiplicidad de opresiones, otros le llaman la interseccionalidad. Nos discriminan por ser mujer, por ser indígena, ¿no? Y también por estar en las estadísticas de la pobreza. Y si hablamos de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, de los más de 150 indicadores para las ODS, solo 4 se refieren a pueblos indígenas y ninguno a las mujeres indígenas originarias en específico. Pero las mujeres indígenas no nos quedamos impasibles ante esta invisibilidad y esta cadena y esta condena al silencio. Decidimos hacernos ver y hacernos oír. Por ello, en el año 1995, ante la proximidad de la conferencia de Beijing, nos preparamos y fuimos, no participamos y rompimos la invisibilidad y el silencio. En Beijing, las mujeres indígenas promovimos pues nuestro ser colectivo, lo que nos ata a nuestro territorio, la conexión que existe y la mirada que tenemos como mujeres rurales, indígenas, originarias en nuestro territorio. Desde nuestra resistencia organizada denunciamos las brechas multidimensionales que postergan nuestros derechos. Somos cada vez más visibles y nuestra voz se escucha cada vez más en espacios nacionales e internacionales, y no descansaremos pues hasta lograr el pleno ejercicio de nuestros derechos colectivos e individuales como pueblos y mujeres indígenas. ¿Cómo estamos ahora? Los censos de las comunidades campesinas y nativas del año 2017 revelaron que solo un 5% de mujeres es presidida por estas comunidades, y en las comunidades nativas un 4%. Esto quiere decir que aún el 95% en las comunidades quienes lo presiden son los hombres. Desde ONAMIAP venimos promoviendo la participación de las mujeres a través de los estatutos comunales, que son normas internas dentro de la comunidad. Hemos encontrado ante esto mucha resistencia, porque no se visibiliza también la desigualdad que existe en las comunidades. Siempre dicen, hay la discusión que los hombres y las mujeres somos iguales, sin embargo hay mucha desigualdad dentro de las comunidades. Una vez que estamos las mujeres dentro de la directiva comunal, ya podemos tomar decisiones acerca de nuestros territorios, El reto también que queda para nosotros las organizaciones es cómo preparamos a las mujeres para que no solamente tenga presencia, sino también participación dentro de estos espacios de toma de decisiones. Entonces, ahí también vemos que si alguna mujer originaria, rural, es elegida dentro de en la comunidad como presidenta de la comunidad, eh, tiene que pagar como derecho de piso, tiene que hacer todo correcto porque todo el tiempo es señalada, es juzgada, no tiene la oportunidad de equivocarse, ella no puede equivocarse, él sí puede equivocarse. Entonces, es muy estricto y es un reto muy grande para nosotras las mujeres. Una de las brechas, una de las principales dificultades que encontramos las mujeres también para participar en la toma de decisiones de nuestro territorio colectivo es desde el hogar. Muchas veces para ocupar o recibir un cargo hay que pedir permiso a la pareja, hay que prepararnos y muchas veces tenemos la carga laboral de los hijos y hay mucha desigualdad también en oportunidad de capacitarnos acerca de nuestros derechos. Cuando una mujer sale a la ciudad a capacitarse por 2 o 3 días, regresas a tu casa, te estás preocupada cómo estarán tus niños, cómo estarán tus animales, cómo estará la chacra, ¿no? En cambio, cuando un hombre sale, agarra su maletín y sale a la ciudad a capacitarse y regresa, su casa está igual, sus hijos han comido, han estudiado. Entonces, eso es una de las dificultades que tenemos desde nuestros hogares y también en las comunidades. Las mujeres rurales son el 31% del total de productoras agrarias y tienen las tierras menos productivas, de menor extensión y sin posibilidades de créditos agrarios. También podemos mencionar que con nuestros saberes ancestrales, esta pandemia hemos demostrado, pues, enfrentamos a esta pandemia del coronavirus. También queda demostrado que la agricultura no ha entrado en cuarentena. Si el campo no produce, la ciudad no se alimenta. Y estos aportes a la soberanía alimentaria de nuestro país, que son trabajadas, que tienen todo el pensamiento, todo el trabajo de mujeres indígenas campesinas, no es valorado también desde los estados, desde los gobiernos, justamente porque también el precio de los productos está por los suelos. Acá quienes se benefician son pues los intermediarios, ¿no? Entonces, y según los últimos resultados del censo, en el 2017, las mujeres rurales somos
you have 1 minute to conclude.
¿Cuántos minutos? A ver.
1 minute.
¿Uno? Un minuto, ¿no? Ya, ahorita un ratito. Bueno, voy a hablar de los desafíos que tenemos las mujeres. Uno de los desafíos importantes es las mujeres debemos asumir que sí tenemos derechos y debemos ejercerlas, sino que también no nos asumimos sujetas de derechos. También hay que despatriarcalizar, o yo lo digo, como hay mucho machismo, lo digo, desmachizar los pensamientos en diversas esferas sociales para poder implementar políticas públicas que incorporen a las mujeres. Implementar los derechos de las mujeres también es respetar los derechos humanos, que las mujeres participen en estos espacios de defensa territorial también pasa por los derechos humanos de las mujeres, practicar una verdadera interculturalidad y que nos consideren sujetas de derecho y actoras del cambio, actoras de proponer y de aportar, ¿no?, a la conservación de nuestra soberanía alimentaria. Las políticas de género no solamente deben estar en los papeles, esto debe trasladarse también a las realidades y a las acciones. Las mujeres debemos también organizarnos y unirnos para plantear nuestra propia agenda a partir de nuestras realidades. No solucionaremos nuestros problemas con recetas de afuera. Sin la efectiva participación de las mujeres, no podemos hablar de democracia, ni de derechos, ni de igualdad. Entonces, es muy importante que no solamente esté pues para el discurso del Estado, para el discurso de las organizaciones mixtas, sino también que realmente que se considere en su real dimensión el enfoque de género, el enfoque de interculturalidad en las diferentes políticas que se implementen en los países. Gracias, Naomi.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Katie, for a very, very good keynote. You've touched so many areas and how to make sure that this work is going on. So now we are going to our panelists for today. I'm going to introduce our panelists for today, and the way they are going to be answering to the theme of our session, securing women's land rights through the Beijing+25 Action Coalition as a gateway toward a feminist economic transformation. So our panelists, as I said, and Katie has insisted on that, they have solutions. For the past 25 years of Beijing, a platform for action, they've been working on this. And we think they are supposed to be heard, and the government leaders and coordinating institutions for Action Coalition are supposed to hear them, are supposed to hear grassroots women and what they have been strategizing for the past 25 years. So the first speaker I'm going to welcome is Anne Gachambi. Anne Gachambi is a grassroots woman from Kenya. She's a grassroots woman leader. She's one of 100 women who continue to empower women at the local level to advocate for gender equality and to challenge gender stereotyping and patriarchal attitude at local community and family space. In 2016, Anne, together with other women, participated on Kilimanjaro Women Initiative, a grassroots rural mobilization which made of 22 African countries who climbed Mountain Kilimanjaro to as a way to advocate for women's land rights for African women. Anne Gachambi, would you tell us on your experience as an African woman, grassroots leader, what are women's land rights issues for African women, and what should the Action Coalition be thinking about when they are preparing this Action Coalition in the context of women's land rights issues in Africa? Welcome, Anne.
Thank you so much, Naomi, for that introduction. Well, the issues of women on land, we can say that there are so many. And since 2016, when we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, we came up with about 15 demands that we felt, if addressed, can address the issue of women land rights. And to this extent, we can say that these demands, some are being met, but others are still lagging behind. So not unless the issue of women land rights is entrenched in everything that every government does, we will not be able to solve, or we will not be able to meet the action coalitions. For example, when you're talking about the economic justice, if women land rights who contribute to 80% of all their lives rely 180% of their livelihood depend directly on land, we will not be able to achieve what we want with this economic justice. Again, when you're talking about gender-based violence as one of our coalitions, this is an issue that has risen. It is too high. For example, here yesterday we had a case of where a woman was stabbed to death because she refused to sign a sale agreement. The husband killed her. That is gender-based violence, and it was because of land. If that land was on her hands, we couldn't have lost that land, that life. It is not only happening in Kenya, but it is happening all over the world. And in Africa, mostly in Africa. Again, we had another demand on the issue of large-scale investment on land. These ones leads to displacement of women and children. If women are not involved in the issue of large-scale investment to decide on what is going to happen on these lands, the issue of climate change upon our action coalition, again, we might not be able to achieve what we want. So the issues, what I want to say is that the issues of women land rights, they must be addressed from the center to all corners. As we continue with this fight or with this campaign on how we can bring women into leadership, again, I come in with the issue of feminist leadership, another issue of our coalition of Beijing+25. When we want to build a movement, we need to bring in all the stakeholders, the rural grassroots women, their land rights, their leadership, being involved in decision-making platforms, not just 50%, even 70%, because as we are the key stakeholders in everything, like the keynote speaker has said that women contribute, and even when we go out, you come back, you still have a burden of care work that is waiting for you. If feminist leadership and movement building is not addressed, and then the issue of women land rights is not entrenched in this in a holistic way, we may not be able, and then we bring women on the decision-making platforms, we may not be able to achieve, and we may not be able to bring up the leadership that we want. Again, from the patriarchal issues that we have come from, especially the African style, we are so much entrenched into men. It's only men who can own land. It is only men who can control land. It is only men who can do this to land. They are the ones who are making decisions. They are the ones who can be in those decision-making forums. Again, if we don't bring in women, and we build a very strong movement of women that are going to address this issue. And this one can only happen if we are able to sensitize and teach our women from the rural areas, from all over, on their rights. Because some of us, we do not even know these rights. When you go to these rural areas, you will find a woman who just say, it is okay, it is his land. After all, I am married. After all, I am a lady. After all, I am a girl. At the end of the day, you realize that our land rights are being violated right, center, middle, everywhere. So what I would say is that we need to bring the issues of women land rights. As we think of, when we were climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, we really thought of the issue of the Africa we want. No, the governments are signing agreements, but if back at home, they are not working towards achieving whatever they have signed, we are not doing anything. And if they are not involving the women in signing these documents and hearing what the women are saying, we are not going to achieve that. Again, on the issue of Agenda 2063, where we want the land issues, at least 50% of land to be in the hands of women. If we are not going to address the customary, the traditional laws that inhibit women from owning this land and controlling these lands, we might not be able to achieve that. So
Thank
what
you
I would
so
say
much,
is that
Annie, 1 minute to conclude. You'll
Thank
have
you.
another round to talk about the ask and solutions.
Yes, yes. So these issues, they need to be addressed, and in this case, I would say that women land rights are very crucial to development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne Gachambi, for sharing with us what are the women's land rights issues in Africa. Perhaps, as the UN Women and the UN says no, um, the UN Women and the UN has publicly declared that no any country in the world has achieved gender equality. Perhaps, who knows, maybe the issues of women's land rights, territories, natural resource, among the issues, and we in this panel we believe it's a very strong issue which has resulted to the inequality and what women across the world are experiencing. Thanks for sharing that experience from Africa. Now we are going to the next speaker, who is from Asia. Our next speaker is Anu Vema. Our next speaker is Anu Vema. She's a human rights activist, having reached 17 years of working experience from grassroots organization, women collective, and international organization. Her works ranged from nurturing people's collectives, leadership development, strengthening CBOs and networks, running campaign, socio-economic political empowerment of women and marginalized communities, and natural resource management. She's handling Secretariat of South Asia Pastoral Alliance. Anu is going to share with us in this first round about what are the women's land and natural rights issues in Asia. What are those things? What are those women's land rights and natural resource issues in Asia, which have resulted for women in Asia not to have equality? No any country in Asia has reached gender equality. Anu, you have 4 minutes to respond to this question. Welcome, Anu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Naomi. Um, so what I was hearing from Latin America and Africa, the things, the situations, the issues are so similar when it comes to women land rights. The entire idea of acceptance of women having independent rights over land is in itself disputed. So if you talk within the family or in the society or with the states, they say that, oh, if the land is in the name of family, and the chief of household is generally men, so what is the issue? So the acceptance is the primarily fundamental issue when it comes to the land rights of women. Then there are multiple layers of challenges that women face as we see across the globe. The patriarchy, it is so strong in Asia as well, and especially in South Asia. The culture of patriarchy is so deeply entrenched in customary laws or customary practices, traditional practices. The social norm, for example, of having a son child and the land goes to the son is very common in the South Asia, whether it is Nepal, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan. And I am in the farmers protest right now, and I can see there are just handful of women. There are the male farmers are in around 1,500,000 in numbers on the street. um, but there are just a few thousand, not even few thousand, just a few hundred of women, because women are not considered farmers, because women don't hold land, because as Katie said, that it is presumed that um, they don't have a right over the land. over land and natural resources. And another issue that even if in the situations where their women have land ownership or they have a title, then also we have seen in a number of cases, for example in Bangladesh, that women who were having titles over land did not even know their land holding when they were asked. So there is a question of access, control, and ownership over land. Another layer of issue is if we see land holdings in across Asia, we will find that the women having lands are around 14 to 20%, and again the gender gap in Southeast Asia is lesser than in South Asia. In South Asia, it is still higher, and in Philippines, for example, the land holding is only 6.5%. So this in itself, these data in itself shows the very starking figures and situation of women. Policies and if there are laws and policies, the enforcement of these laws and policies are again a problem. Again, I would refer Katie, where we assume that women and men are same, while the needs and the experiences and the roles of women on land and natural resources, their relationship is so very different. For example, I would quote the law of protected area law in Cambodia, that remains silent, completely silent, and gender blind on when it comes to equal rights of women. Another area of concern is the contribution, the tremendous contribution of women in making the land productive. In when we see the example of indigenous women, pastoral women, family farmer women, or salt pan workers, or the women who are engaged in fisheries, they have tremendous knowledge. They have the practices that they do to conserve and protect environment, in the knowledge they have in traditional restoration practices of the commons land, the rangeland, is just not recognized enough, and their contribution is completely invisible. Then the burden of if we talk about women, we all know that the issue of single women is all the more starking, because the dispossession of single women, both from their family and society, um, is an issue. It is very easy to label single women as bad women and then dispossess them from their rights over land and property and natural resources. So issues of intersectionality within the entire discourse of land rights of women is again needs to be seen. The last point I would want to make on when the state, the family, the community, and market interplays together, when we talk about patriarchy, uh, layered with capitalism, layered with gender issues, the class issues, and in Asia, caste issues and religion issues. Then the globalization and liberalization, all these factors put together marginalize women's and their rights to such an extent that uh, many a times, as other speakers also said, that in many cases we have seen that there is the women are being murdered, the women are being labeled as bad women, they are criminalized, they are just their rights is being denied in public as well as in private spaces. So the issues are tremendous, and hence I would just say that we haven't, I mean, in Asia, very strongly, we have not moved ahead from Beijing, from 1995, when this Beijing conference has happened, neither at the family level or at the societal level, or neither at the state and policy level. Thank you, Naomi. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Anu, for contribution from Asia. We keep learning. We're learning of this issue, and as you can see from Africa and Asia, there's some bits of similarities, but there's also difference. One of the big similarity I've got here is um, uh, um, land grabbing issues is a feminist issue. Issues issues of patriarchal feminist issue as issues of large-scale land-based investments in other things. So we have to tackle them all together. Thank you so much for that experience from Asia. Now we are going to listen to another experience from another global south continent, which is Latin America. And here we have our third speaker, who is Ottilie Lux. I see Ottilie is in the chat. Is here with us. I'm not very sure if Ottilie can speak, but Ottilie is a graduate graduated in education administration. She's an advisor of Madre for Indigenous Women and of the emblematic program of Indigenous Women of the Indigenous Fund of Latin America and the Caribbean. Is a former executive director of FIMI. She was a member of that country historical clarification commission charged with investigating of human rights violation committed during Central American nationals' 30 years long civil war. Minister of Culture and Sport and a member of the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues at the United Nations. She served on UNESCO's executive board for 2004 up to 2007 period. So Ottilie is very experienced on the issues of women's land rights and natural resource and territories from Latin America. And so Ottilie, would you also share with us what are women's land territory rights issues in Latin America, particularly in your country? Welcome, Ottilie. The floor is yours.
Gracias, Naomi. Gracias a los organizadores de este foro. Un tema muy interesante a tocar, especialmente ahora que estamos a 25 años de Beijing, que siendo la plataforma de Beijing la que puso el punto de inflexión para el abordaje de la igualdad de las mujeres. Nos vemos ahora a 25 años con grandes desafíos.
So sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry to interrupt. For the interpreter, could you please help me ask Ottilie to enter the Spanish channel? She is currently in the English channel.
Yeah.
Sorry, 1 minute, Ottilie.
Ahora.
Sorting out the interpretation.
Ahora. Sí. Sí, cómo no. Ya ingresé. Bueno, estaba diciendo que agradecía profundamente la invitación por parte de Naomi y las otras las instituciones organizadoras. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Creo que estamos a 25 años de Beijing, la plataforma que fue el punto de inflexión para el abordaje de la igualdad, especialmente para nosotras las mujeres indígenas y cualquier mujer del mundo. Somos sujetas de derecho y nosotras las mujeres indígenas somos sujetas de derecho colectivo. Para el asunto del tema de la tierra, quiero compartir una presentación en donde abordaré el tema de cómo estamos las mujeres indígenas y especialmente en la región latinoamericana, cómo realmente nos podemos observar. Entonces, de esta manera, voy a nivel global, las mujeres indígenas rurales producen la mitad de todos los alimentos que se consumen. Veo ahora en la segunda diapositiva, estamos tratando de ver cómo nos... aquí. En el 2007, Latinoamérica tenía 37 millones de mujeres rurales mayores de 15 años. 17 millones forman parte de la población económicamente activa. No se sabe cuántas niñas, adolescentes y ancianas trabajan, pero no están reconocidas como parte de la producción económicamente activa. Se calcula que 10 millones son mujeres indígenas rurales, hablan idiomas, cosmovisión, formas propias de vida y autoridad. Ahora bien, mujeres propietarias en general de tierra cultivable o no cultivable, algunos ejemplos. 32% en México, 27% en Paraguay, 20% en Nicaragua, 14% en Honduras. Pasamos, ni estados, ni la academia, ni organizaciones de mujeres feministas reconocen que las mujeres indígenas rurales han jugado un rol clave en conservación de ecosistemas complejos, no solo de bosques, flora o fauna, fuentes de agua dulce y salada, a adaptación de los cultivos frente al cambio climático para contrarrestar la emisión de carbono dióxido, autosuficiencia de sus comunidades como alimentación. Realizan tareas fuertes de campo en la casa, la comunidad, a nivel nacional e internacional. Trabajan prácticamente un promedio de 14 horas de domingo a domingo. Siembran, producen, cosechan, preparan, trasladan y ocupan mercados locales y nacionales en sus países con su producción, sin servicios de salud o retiro. Forman a las nuevas generaciones de quienes producirán los alimentos. No es lo mismo tierra que territorios. Se necesita un debate para definir desde las mujeres indígenas, pero tierra, espacios para producir y territorios incluye vida productiva, cultural, política, económica, social y jurídica. Vemos también que las mujeres indígenas han enfrentado una pérdida permanente de sus territorios por despojos. La historia y sistemas económicos, la conquista, la colonia, la independencia, la república, el siglo XX y el neocolonialismo del siglo XXI ha hecho que todo esto se pierda. El extractivismo no es nuevo. Vemos que desde hace muchos años, el despojo realmente actual supera a la colonia. Tenemos, a pesar de sus múltiples aportes, el acceso a la tierra realmente es complejo. Extrema concentración de la tierra cultivable en pocas manos. Esto prácticamente en censos, pocos cambios sustantivos se observan. Los procesos de reconcentración de la tierra para monocultivos, agronegocios y pastos. Desaparecimiento de comunidades por la presión extrema. La represión para despojar las tierras ancestrales, como el crimen organizado, empresas inmobiliarias, un ejemplo en México y Guatemala. Desalojos violentos, la violencia sexual de las niñas, adolescentes y mujeres desde el Estado, como el caso, por ejemplo, Perú, Colombia y Guatemala. Casi inexistentes programas de acceso a la tierra cultivable para mujeres indígenas desde los estados. Los pocos modelos se han caracterizado por corrupción, clientelismo, crear conflictos internos comunitarios. Otros programas son generales, no toman en cuenta mujeres, cabeza de hogar. En general, los programas de acceso a la tierra, cuando han existido, han reproducido las opresiones de raza, clase, género, ubicación, monolingüismo, invisibilización o subestimación de mujeres, entre otras. ¿Cómo impactan estas permanentes exclusiones en el acceso a la tierra cultivable para las mujeres indígenas? Existen diferentes formas de acceso, herencias, programas estatales o cooperación, compra propia. Los datos informan que la mayoría de la tierra cultivable está en manos de los hombres por múltiples razones y varían según los países. Cuando las mujeres acceden, no obtienen espacios en condiciones de igualdad que los hombres, ni en extensión ni calidad. Mujeres indígenas son problemas para producir lo suficiente y cubrir necesidades. Ausencia de códigos agrarios, tribunales de tierra, sistema de justicia. que reconozcan la diversidad étnica, la burocracia, el fondo y los estados. Me paso a los desafíos. Quizás para poder dar a conocer, hay barreras realmente que existen, ¿verdad? Para el acceso a la tierra. Aquí lo dejo como presentación, los mercados, el futuro incierto de las mujeres indígenas, el tema estructural y la columna vertebral, como la tierra sigue siendo asumido como mercancía. Me paso, bueno, voy a abordar los desafíos. Creo que entre los desafíos puedo abordar el diseño de políticas, el arrendamiento de tierras por parte de los estados con la finalidad de comprarlas para ser distribuida a mujeres indígenas, garantizar la seguridad jurídica de las tierras, el desarrollo de capacidades técnicas, económicas y políticas, garantizar la soberanía y seguridad alimentaria, visibilizar a las mujeres.
Thank you, Otilia.
Ok, bueno, yo creo que dejo la presentación. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Otilia. We will have a second round where we are going to be speaking about the ask and the recommendations for the Beijing+25 process. So don't worry, we have the second round. This first round, we are discussing about what are the issues. Before going to the ask, what are the indigenous people ask, as you started to say, I think you are going to mention them at the second round of this discussion. But for now, thank you so much for the issues which you have shared with us, which are the indigenous women issues in Latin America. We have another indigenous women leader from Latin America. Also, Amparo Vasquez, please use only 3 minutes to go direct to the issues of indigenous women from Colombia. Share with us what are their issues, what are their women's land, what are the women's land and terrestrial issues from Colombia, and what are these issues which you think if they are not addressed, we are not going to achieve gender equality for the next years, as what has happened for the 25 years of Beijing Platform for Action. So Vampalo, kindly use 3 issues, three minutes. To introduce Amparo, she's a defender of agricultural, terrestrial, and environmental rights in Cundinamarca, Colombia. Luz Amparo is a member of National Association of Peasant Users of Colombia, ANUC, and part of the Platform for Political Advocacy for Rural Women in Colombia. She has participated in the construction of several public policy proposals in favor of rural women in Colombia. So, Amparo, would you tell us what are the issues of women in relation to land and terrestrial rights in Colombia? Welcome.
Buenos días a todas y todos. Si bien vemos que el problema para las mujeres lo compartimos con las que me antecedieron, para Colombia ha sido un poco más marcado esto, teniendo en cuenta que Beijing+25 ha recomendado y hemos participado. Sin embargo, vemos que la problemática para las mujeres indígenas, afros y campesinas se comparte de igual a igual. La tierra está en manos de... la tierra, la gran cantidad de tierra está en pocas manos y quienes necesitamos la tierra no tenemos tierra. Como lo decimos, somos defensoras del territorio, la tierra y el medio ambiente, pero no poseemos tierra, defendemos lo que no tenemos. La tierra es un productivo para todas, sí, pero la tierra también conecta a las mujeres indígenas, afros y campesinas. Tener la tierra es algo importante para las mujeres. Tenemos tierra, algunas veces quienes acceden a tener tierra o logran tener un título, no logran la gobernanza de esta tierra. ¿Por qué no logran la gobernanza? Porque algunas veces tienen que enajenar la tierra, porque no es su tierra, sino la tierra para el compañero o compañera. Entonces la tierra se le da siempre, quien la domina es el hombre. Y el patriarcado para nosotras está y prima siempre ahí. Entonces hay leyes. Colombia es un país que legisla mucho, crea muchas leyes, obviamente. Tenemos la Dirección de Mujer Rural, que es un gran avance. Tenemos la Agencia Nacional de Tierra, la Agencia de Renovación del Territorio, pero pese a esto vemos que hay muchas leyes, hay muchos espacios, pero las mujeres no participamos de ellos. Tenemos muy escasa participación y eso impide el acceso a la tierra y el dominio a la misma. La tierra para las mujeres significa mucho. Significa la vida, significa la seguridad y soberanía alimentaria, significa un espacio de construcción de vida, por eso permanecer en ella es una cultura, es un espacio y es una conexión. Las mujeres en Colombia y en Latinoamérica han visto perdida su propia vida y su propia cosmovisión porque han tenido que emigrar de los espacios y migran de esos espacios porque la tierra para ellas significa a veces tener una vida, pero también un riesgo. Cuando la tierra la tenemos, vemos que esos agrocombustibles fósiles, sin embargo, están presentando una amenaza, porque a veces somos dueñas de un título, pero no de lo que está dentro de la tierra. Y eso genera un conflicto, ha generado un conflicto no solamente para las mujeres indígenas, para las afros y las campesinas, sino también ha significado perder la vida. En Colombia, defender la tierra, defender el territorio y el medio ambiente es un riesgo, y un riesgo para las mujeres porque las mujeres siendo indígenas, siendo afro o campesinas, estando en un territorio, ven amenazada su vida porque la tierra está como un medio productivo, pero también la tierra, a pesar de que la tengan en manos, pocos tienen mucha tierra, nosotras no tenemos ni siquiera la oportunidad de cultivar o de emprender un proyecto productivo. La tierra para las mujeres es importante no solamente por vivir en ella, sino por emprender un proyecto productivo y por llegar a esas y derribar esas barreras que tenemos en el tema de pobreza y pobreza dimensional. En Colombia somos mal contadas mujeres rurales, 5.100.000 mujeres, pero sin embargo vemos que ese 5 millones, el 50% padece una pobreza y una pobreza dimensional. Es tanto así que en esta pandemia hemos visto que la pobreza ya no será pobreza, será miseria, porque muchas mujeres no tienen ni el acceso a la tierra, ni el acceso al medio productivo, menos el acceso a una seguridad y soberanía alimentaria. Entonces, para las mujeres implica un riesgo muy grande perder esa soberanía, esa seguridad alimentaria por no poder producirla. Sí llegan productos, llegan alimentos, pero no alimentos que realmente pueden ayudar a una mujer a vivir y a tener su territorio y a tener su propia vida. Las mujeres en Colombia, más las mujeres indígenas, ven amenazada su vida y su cosmovisión, su cultura, porque de los territorios han sido despojadas. Y ser despojada una mujer de un territorio no solamente es cuando pierde su tierra, pierde su propia vida, porque no es lo mismo vivir en una selva de concreto que vivir en la tierra o poder producir de ella. Las mujeres indígenas específicamente quieren propuestas y propuestas muy buenas. Y eso lo vimos, creo que por lo que ellas han hecho, por lo que ellas han logrado, y esos logros hay que reivindicarlos, hay que tenerlos en cuenta, pero también hay que hacerlos valer en los espacios, porque muchas mujeres podemos hablar y podemos discutir aquí los espacios, pero buscamos una alternativa como que nuestras voces sean escuchadas, pero también nuestra problemática tenga una solución. Sabemos que aquí no se soluciona todo, pero sí podemos llegar a concretar, a tener un espacio donde dinámicamente las mujeres podamos exigir esos derechos, el derecho a la tierra, al territorio y al medio ambiente. Nosotras enfriamos el planeta, preservamos la biodiversidad y ponemos en la mesa de todos y cada uno de los colombianos ese alimento que sirve para ellos y para ellas. Ayudamos también a que la cultura permanezca en los territorios, pero también vemos amenazada la vida. La vida para nosotras es vida con tierra, con territorio.
Thank you so much, Luz.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, Luz, for sharing with us issues of women, particularly indigenous women from Colombia. Now we have seen these issues from different parts of the world, and somehow related, similar, and somehow differ, but all are the issues of women in relation to land rights and terrestrial rights. We are going to our last speaker for this round. For her, she's going to share with us a bit from a different perspective, but she's going to concentrate on the issues of women's land rights. She's going to share with us the issues on extractive industry sector. And this is Mame Diara Ndiaye. She works for Oxfam International as regional coordinator of the extractive industry program. Her work in the West, her work is in the West African region, focuses on inclusive and transparent governance of extractive resource for the benefit of vulnerable communities and reduction of inequalities. She leads regional and international advocacy for the respect of economic and social rights of women affected by the exploitation of natural resource. Mame has over 15 years of working with women's group. Mame, would you share with us what are the women's land rights issues or natural resource issues in the context of the extractive industry sector? Welcome, Mame, for 3 minutes, please. Share with us what are the issues on women's land rights issues in the extractive industry sector. Welcome, the floor is yours. Would you unmute yourself, Mame? You are on mute. Mame, would you unmute yourself? You are on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Naomi. Just to address a greeting to my fellow panelists and all the participants in this important forum. From what I heard since the beginning, I see that here in West Africa, we are sharing the same issue. And the women's access on land is on a big picture. Even if I will focus a little bit on extractive industry, but hearing my fellow panelists addressing the issue, we just noticed that we are facing some problems, whether it's extractive industries in a more general way. And I think that what makes it very difficult here in West Africa is the cultural role. Cultural role make it very difficult, and traditional and religious practices are still very strong in on the equal framework. That's why women usually they are very they have a fear to claim their role and to claim their right, because what we notice is that when a woman, the wife and the husband is in the same house, the wife is have a certain fear to claim her right to access to land, and so land is the leaders of the land management is always man. And on this cultural view, we have a lack of equal policy formulation that could improve women's right to access to land. And we also notice in the extractive sector a lack of effective implementation of the few policy that we have. We don't have many policy in Africa that address women's right access to land, but sorry, it was my son. Lack of effective implementation of the few policy we have. We did a lot of advocacy in regional and continental level to have a policy, but usually we have many difficulty for government to implement effectively this policy. We also have a strong inequal compensation policy because the cultural rules that I mentioned earlier that establish that women can't be landowner. Also, and we have a very weak level of women's participation in the decision making when it comes to extractive and district governance. This is the few points we have about the land. And what we discover by doing advocacy in the international, in more international way, on regional way, is that the solidarity for women who are in the high level of advocacy and influence is not so strong toward their sister who are in the grassroots. And maybe in what we will ask that women here who are in a more high level of advocacy or influence position can give their voice, improve, they involve women to ask women who are in the grassroots to have an effective policy implementation.
Thank you so much, Mame, for sticking to the time. So, friends, we have finished the first round of our session, where we are focusing on the issues of women's land rights and natural resource across the globe. We have gone through, we have seen the issues in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and also the issue relating to extractive industry sector. So we are going to the second round of the session, where we are going to now focus on like one of the questions which is on chat. What are the grassroots women recommendation? Because we know the Beijing +25 process is continuing now, but there are voices of grassroots people. There are voices of women from rural areas, from the indigenous people. They have their voices, and for the 25 years, the past 25 years, they have been strategizing. We have seen the Kilimanjaro women's land rights campaign and other campaigns in Asia and Latin America. So now I'm asking the speakers to be very precise, mentioning what are the key asks and recommendations for the Beijing +25 Action Coalitions. And I'm going directly as I started with Annie Gachambi. Annie Gachambi, would you tell us, because now, because as we said in the beginning, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there have not been a good participation and consultation, but African women strategized. So African women strategized, and they have their charter of demand. Would you share with the panel for 4 minutes, because we have remained with 20 minutes, for 4 minutes, share with us what are the asks from African women, and what do African women want to appear in the Beijing +25 action. Welcome, Anne. And would you start speaking? The floor is yours.
Thanks once again, Naomi. Okay, as African women, our recommendation or our ask is that we may get civic education to both the women and the community at large. Because if it's only the women who will know about their land rights, without the whole community embracing and understanding what it all entails, we may not be able to achieve what we want on women land rights. Secondly, the issue of cultural and the religious leaders, sensitizing them and bringing them on board as champions so that they can help us to focus on women land rights, and that we may be able to achieve what we are looking forward to. The other issue is now putting the government on toes. Once the government signs into these agreements, the African, the international agreements, once we come back and check on the checkbook or the scorecard on how the governments have performed, those that have not done anything towards women land rights, there should be an action against them, because we just let things pass. The 5 years goes, that one is done. 25 years down the line, some countries have not done anything about women land rights. It just passes or slips under the fingers. The other thing that we would recommend is, like now we have been so much affected by COVID-19, the issue of technology and innovation, an issue because as grassroots rural women, who are not able to access the issues of land that were being addressed through the technology. Cases were being passed. And we know we are living in a world of full of corruption. And the women from the rural areas, most of us, we are not able to access this type of technology, whereby we can be able to see and understand, especially now that COVID-19 has taught us that it is not a must that we do physical cases, we do physical meetings, we can do virtual. So women at the grassroots level, we need to learn the technology and the new innovations that are coming in. Again, our engagement with the Kilimanjaro initiative, what we have always been asking, involving everybody on issues of land, so that the issues that are entrenched so much, especially the cultural norms that hinder women from acquiring or owning land, they be taught from childhood, everybody, boys, girls, men and women, all of us, so that as we grow up, as we try to remove this issue of, or to erase the issue of women cannot own, women cannot do, women cannot decide, women cannot, such kind of stereotypes. That can only be done if we are able to teach from, even in our education curriculums, that what we can be able to address the issue of women land rights. The last but not least is our aim was to create a network of women land rights and also work closely with women rights defenders, all rights, not just women land rights, but all women rights, all women rights, working with the women land rights defenders and other rights, so that we can be able to at least uplift the women. Issues of leadership, issues of gender-based violence, they can only be addressed if we create a network or a strong movement of women from grassroots level to all levels, Africa, all over the world, so that together we can be able to achieve. So I would say that the economic justice, because that is where I feel is we should all focus on, can only be achieved in the best way possible if we are able to let or to have women have land rights, and those rights being secured, that the security of tenure should also be taken into consideration. The issue of the other recommendation I would like to share this morning is the issue of the gender responsive property rights framework. That is beyond the laws that are there, the laws of land that govern different countries. For example, the matrimonial property law and the succession, especially the succession laws. Some of these succession laws block girls from inheriting properties from their parents or from their fathers, especially land. That is where girls' land rights are denied. So
Thank you
that's
so
what
much.
I would like to say. Thanks. My time is over, Naomi.
Yes.
I had a
Thank you
lot.
thank you so much. Yeah. So
Thanks.
yeah, you have 1 minute to for conclusion. I don't know if you're going to get that time. You're going to maybe to share the remaining. So the next speakers, please be precise. Share with us what are the ask and recommendation for the Beijing+25 Action Coalitions. And the next speaker is Anu Vema. Anu, would you share with us what are the asks and recommendations from Asia?
Thank you, Naomi. This compilation of the policy recommendations are from women, grassroots women's organizations and collectives. And I'm presenting this collective and asked before the forum. So the first one is to to support people-centered and gender-just land governance with respect to indigenous people, pastoralist, women, youth, having access, control, ownership, and management of land and natural resources. This call is to all the UN bodies and international organizations to have stronger mechanisms in making development actors, especially governments and corporations, accountable for all their actions in SDG achievement, social, political. This is also a call for all the governments in Asia to promote national policies that are oriented towards protecting people's land rights, especially women's land rights, and recognition of diverse tenure systems. Recognized indigenous women identity with respect to their relation with land and natural resources that that would result in their self-determination. To effectively uphold the UN DRIP in review of SDGs, its targets and implementation, institutionalize FPIC to protect collective rights and way of lives of indigenous peoples and indigenous women, to recognize customary self-governance systems and practices that recognize women's relation with their culture, land, knowledge, language, and natural environment. Formulate inclusive, culturally sensitive, and gender responsive legislations, administrative policies, and regulatory measures to address their immediate, practical, and strategic needs. To ensure full and meaningful participation of women, especially from indigenous and other marginalized women, in every decision making process, which includes SDGs. Forcibly displacement should be stopped in order to protect the dignity of women. All categories of landless single women must be enumerated and prioritized in various kinds of public land distribution initiatives. Enforcement of stronger laws to stop the criminalization of land and environmental rights defenders, recognize pastorals as indigenous and respect UN DRIP, recognize the essential role of pastorals, especially women's contribution in global environmental sustainability, including their contribution in conservation of biodiversity, migration of climate change, mitigation of climate change, and combating desertification. Thank you so much, Naomi. This is all from my side.
Thank you so much for sharing with us what are the asks and recommendations from women from Asia. And now we're going direct to our panelists from Latin America, and we're going to start with Otili Lax. Otili, if you can share with us very precise in bullet, what are the asks?
Muchas gracias.
What are the
Sí,
asks?
no.
What are the asks from
una de las recomendaciones que siempre hemos dicho los pueblos y las mujeres indígenas es que los estados y toda institucionalidad que exista en la globalidad debe reconocer y debe respetar los derechos individuales y colectivos de los pueblos y las mujeres indígenas. Ahí radica prácticamente la libre determinación, la autonomía y sobre todo lo que nosotros siempre exigimos es la consulta previa e informada para cualquier proyecto de desarrollo y que está realmente plasmado en la Declaración de los Derechos Individuales y Colectivos de los Pueblos Indígenas. Las mujeres somos realmente las de menor acceso a la tierra. Por lo tanto, yo creo que los estados están obligados a diseñar políticas para que las mujeres accesen a la tierra, especialmente mujeres que carecen de ella y que se requiere realmente de la titulación de la tierra. El arrendamiento de tierras también es importante que se haga por parte de los estados como parte de las políticas, pero con el propósito también de que esa tierra sea comprada para los pueblos y las mujeres indígenas. Necesitamos realmente que se garantice la seguridad jurídica de la tierra. Esto es súper indispensable y es una recomendación que hay que hacerla porque eso ha sido carencia realmente durante los 25 años de Beijing y ha sido realmente una forma histórica en la cual las mujeres hemos sido discriminadas en ese aspecto. El desarrollo de las capacidades técnicas, económicas y políticas es súper también importante ponerle atención para superar las barreras, que son estas barreras que no tienen acceso al crédito, que no hay asistencia técnica, que no hay mercados. Entonces hay que ponerlo en términos positivos. Por otra parte, sería también importante el fortalecimiento del Estado de Derecho en los estados. Los estados también deben cumplir las normas nacionales e internacionales que han sido signadas por los mismos estados. Promover la visión indígena sobre la vida. Los andinos le denominan el buen vivir y toda la Mesoamérica obviamente le llama Mayapcaslemalil como el concepto del desarrollo desde nuestras propias perspectivas como mujeres. Incorporar, por supuesto, en las políticas sociales y económicas los presupuestos nacionales y en las instituciones del Estado sí debe haber presupuesto para la atención a las mujeres y sobre todo para la protección social. También hay que crear esos tribunales agrarios con el propósito de tener más gobernanza en los territorios indígenas y sobre todo con el extractivismo que provoca mucha ingobernanza en nuestros pueblos. Distribuir tierras ociosas y facilitárselas a las mujeres indígenas rurales. Hoy, especialmente con la pandemia, realmente esta crisis sanitaria, económica y política va a profundizar más las desigualdades en las mujeres y sobre todo va a provocar mucha pobreza y mucha miseria y sobre todo la migración a las ciudades, y ahí es en donde se formarán cinturones de pobreza o migración a países internacionales que les queda cerca. El caso de Centroamérica sería para los Estados Unidos o el caso de la América del Sur, que buscan siempre países europeos, ¿no? Entonces, de esta manera, creo yo que hay que ponerle muchísima atención a darle la reactivación económica a la oportunidad para las mujeres. Es decir, en su producción, en todo tipo de producción, la búsqueda de mercados, los préstamos y sobre todo la asistencia técnica. También pedimos como recomendación el respeto a las defensoras de los territorios y también a los defensores de los territorios. Hoy hay mucha criminalización hacia las defensoras de la tierra y el territorio. Hoy, digamos, en los territorios de los pueblos indígenas se defiende la madre tierra, se protege a la madre tierra, se respeta a la madre tierra, también se defiende el agua, los bosques y sobre todo, digamos, cuando se aborda el tema.
1 minute, please.
Está bien. Muchas veces se acogen de los ojos de agua gente con el propósito de tener o fomentar más bien el capitalismo. Por otra parte, hay que fortalecer las organizaciones de las mujeres indígenas y fortalecer los liderazgos de las mujeres. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Otili. Amparo Vasquez, Amparo, would you share with us what are the asks and recommendations from Colombia? Please be very precise with only 3 minutes, please, because the last one will be Mame Diarra.
Sí, señora. Bueno, para nosotras importante es esa seguridad jurídica, como decía la compañera, pero nosotras la vemos desde el esclarecimiento de los asesinatos de las lideresas en los territorios, porque muchas de ellas no pueden ni siquiera reclamar ese derecho a un cadáver, porque a veces no se puede hacer porque se criminaliza. Entonces sería justo para las mujeres en Colombia y para todas las mujeres tener esa seguridad jurídica que permita el esclarecimiento para no tener ese 96% de impunidad en los territorios. Por otra parte, esa seguridad jurídica también debe permitir a las mujeres el acceso a la tierra, pero también tener la tierra y gobernar la tierra, porque no solamente es un título para las mujeres, sino también cómo gobernarla. A dar cumplimiento a todos los tratados, acuerdos que hemos tenido, las mujeres, no solamente el de Beijing, sino esos otros tratados que hemos firmado para que esos den cumplimiento a todos los derechos que tenemos las mujeres, no solamente a la tierra, sino al territorio y a ese medio ambiente. Gozar de un derecho y una participación real y efectiva, tener la capacidad y la claridad de los territorios, qué territorios para nosotras son justos, que son explotables, y esas barreras de acceso que se brinden sean en una lógica para que las mujeres puedan desarrollar un proyecto productivo que les brinde una mejor calidad de vida. Por otra parte, nosotras en el tema es que se brinde una seguridad y una soberanía alimentaria vista desde las propias costumbres y la propia cosmovisión de los pueblos indígenas, que la titularidad de la tierra, como se hace conjunta, también se logre para las mujeres indígenas y para los consejos comunitarios, que haya esa oportunidad de tener la tierra individualmente, pero que se le brinde a las mujeres ese derecho al acceso, al dominio y a emprender un proyecto productivo que tenga un apoyo con asistencia técnica, que la bancarización para las mujeres no solamente esté ligada por el poseer una tierra, sino también por el poder dominarla y que la tierra no sea enajenada, porque generalmente nos dan tierra, pero la tierra no la podemos gozar porque la tierra se debe enajenar para poder producirla y para poder tener un proyecto productivo. Que los proyectos productivos para las mujeres indígenas, afros y campesinas cuenten con un estímulo, y ese estímulo debe ser la producción agrícola, sí, vista desde la seguridad y la soberanía alimentaria. Que los pueblos indígenas y los pueblos negros también tengan esa oportunidad, y las mujeres que hoy no nombramos aquí, pero que también están en esos espacios siendo indígenas, afros y campesinas, están en las zonas pesqueras, también tengan ese disfrute de los mismos derechos y que se les garantice la vida en ese territorio y la explotación de la pesca, sí, de una forma no violenta, pero que también se les permita el acceso a esos medios productivos. Que las mujeres que hoy no tienen ese derecho a la tierra, se les busque ese derecho, sí, pero sin violentar sus derechos, porque a veces nos dan algo, pero a cambio de eso tenemos que o buscar otra alternativa o perder la vida, que la vida no se pierda por defender la tierra, el territorio y el medio ambiente. Y hacemos ese llamado porque ese esclarecimiento para las mujeres debe ser real, debe ser efectivo, debe decirse porque a una mujer se asesina y cómo está ese derecho a tener la tierra, que si por tener un pedazo de tierra tengamos que perder la vida, y perder la vida en condiciones donde ni siquiera se esclarecen estos derechos. Y para nosotros las mujeres en Colombia también pedimos algo para ustedes, y creo que en la voz de ustedes está, es que se dé cumplimiento al acuerdo de paz. Dando el cumplimiento al acuerdo de paz, tendremos una reforma rural integral que permita a las mujeres el mismo acceso a la tierra, pero también a bienes productivos y a un mercado justo. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Luz. And the last one is Mame Diaran Diaye, from who is sharing us from the perspective of the extractive sector, extractive industry sector. Mame, would you share with us what are the ask and policy recommendations from the extractive sector team for the Beijing+25 Action Coalitions? Mame, please use only 3 minutes. Sorry for that. Mame, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Naomi.
You can start speaking.
Thank you, Naomi. We have 4 asks that we draw from the 18 policy imperative called activating feminist natural resources governance to ensure a just transition. And there's advocacy point have been already submitted to the Generation Equality Action Coalition and Economic Justice. And it's to focus on compensation on land and territory rights. In the first time, we are asking that women's land and territory rights and women's and rights to access communal land and natural resources are respected and secure. Two, we are asking that women's land usage is identified and included in valuation assessment regardless of where the woman hold a formal land title. And three, we are asking that land for land exchange is prioritized and compensation aim to improve or at a minimum restore livelihoods and food security. And lastly, we are asking a compensation program that's not who is exclusively focused, who is not focused on a herd of household, because we noticed that compensation give priority to women, to men who are the house lead. And so we are asking that to review this policy so women and men can benefit from compensation in equal way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mame, for sharing with us what are the asks and recommendations from the extractive sector. We have reached, we are remaining with only 6 or 7 minutes to the end of our session. And I would like to ask the panelists for this session today to share with us we have remained with 5 minutes actually. What in one sentence? What is your your last conclusion for the recommendation for the Beijing+25 Action Coalition? If I would start with Anne, you have only 1 minute. Sorry for putting you on the spot. In 1 minute, what would you say? In one sentence. While Anne is preparing, Anne Vema, can you tell us in 1 minute as a conclusion?
Yes, thank you, Naomi. I think there are, in 1 minute, there are 4 things we need to target. One very important is the new economic policy model, which de-alienates women from their land, whether it is individual land or commons land, range land, or agricultural land. So first, addressing and challenging those policies. Second, working at the family level on the patriarchal aspects. Third is to work on at the societal level to challenge the traditional and customary practices and to change it. And fourth, to work with the state to change the policies so that it is pro women and gender just.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. In one sentence, Anne Gachambi, are you with us now? If Anne Gachambi is still preparing. Okay.
Hello there, Naomi.
Yes, in one sentence, what is your last remark?
Okay, thank you so much for this session, and thank you everybody for listening and to me. My last but not least, my last word or the last sentence is that if we are able to unpack and contextualize all the actions and then merge them with our demands, that each and also interpret how each contribute towards the women land rights and how they affect the women land rights, that will be very, very, very good. And also at the same time, we'll be able to understand how each affects the social justice for each one of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Otili Lax, would you give us a 1 sentence as your last conclusion for this session?
Sí, muchas gracias. En primer lugar, desde la visión de las mujeres indígenas y desde la visión de nosotros como pueblos y sujetos de derecho, pienso que como una conclusión es el manifiesto de la humanidad al respeto a la madre tierra, el respeto a la madre naturaleza, y creo que de esta manera nosotros estaríamos garantizando el derecho a la alimentación para la humanidad y especialmente para las mujeres que han sido realmente discriminadas y excluidas históricamente hablando. Pienso que esa sería como la frase última y por supuesto el acceso a la tierra a las mujeres como un derecho humano. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Otili. Amparo, and lastly, Mami. Amparo, would you share with us what's your one sentence?
Para concluir, debemos pensar que los derechos de las mujeres en el mundo son derechos humanos, se deben respetar, pero también se debe tener en cuenta que la seguridad jurídica para las mujeres es algo importante y el derecho a esa tierra debe ser jurídicamente y responsablemente desde estos tratados ser cumplido.
Okay, thank you so much, Amparo. And last, Mame Diarra, would you share with us what is your last remark?
My last issue is that to give a space to impacted women so they can write their own story, and also give consideration on their priority, because global agenda may not reflect the real grassroots problems.
Thank you so much, Mame. We have reached the end of our session. I know there are questions on the chat box. We thought this is very important to address those key questions. As we have said in the beginning, the Beijing+25 Action Coalition is going on now. The process is very close to the end, but we are afraid that grassroots women, rural women, indigenous women have not been part of this process because of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. And these representatives have shared with us what are their issues. I know there are questions and concerns on the private sector who are very strong, and the way the process is going on now, and this is it is a very big issue, and that's why we had this session, because we want the Action Coalition to include the voice of the grassroots women, of the indigenous women, and the people who are affected by the policies and the decisions which are being made. We have reached the end. Thank you so much. I would like to thank the coordinators, the organizations which have brought us here, the Global South Women Forum. Thank you so much for organizing this forum. Thanks our panelists, Anne Gachambi, Anu Vema, Otili Lux, Amparo Vasquez, and Mame Diarra, and also for Katie, who gave us the keynote speaker. Without forgetting our translators, who are very, very important today to make sure everyone understands, Francisco Gonzalez and Urusha Ignacio. Thank you so much, and bye.
Hasta luego. Muchas gracias. Gracias a todas.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Naomi, gracias.
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 Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Gracias.
Descansen. Gracias.
Gracias.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.